Cool. I want to welcome everyone to Engineering Weekly. Appreciate everyone showing up. Tommy, I know is just hanging out in the background, but welcome. Appreciate you also being on the call. Typically just start these with new contributors and big commits for the week. There's four new contributors this week. J10 Sanders added a bug fix for the dApp nav bar. Harrison Beckery, H. Beckery, has been working on the blog design implementation. Paleview did some updated blog post design. And then Kelvin TYB's has a PR out there for testing of the type diffs. So that's pretty awesome that there's four new contributors. And then some big commits that happened this week, kind of roughly last week. This week was Dilate Brave added the ability to use USD pairs in the dApp. So now if you select a USD-based pair, it'll use one of these deployed stablecoin or like the fake stablecoin USD for collateral, which is great. And then Crypto Mental set up the Docker orchestration for market.js and then carried that over to market protocol repos. So hopefully that smooths a little bit of the automated testing with Travis. Let's see. Nitin finished off the jobs page, so that's now live. And actually Tommy on the call helped with some QA stuff there, so that's good. I think everything's working on that now. And then Stephen Pierce added some more testing to the static site, which I think the PR is still outstanding. We're just waiting to hear back from him. So that's all of the new contributors and things of that nature there. Let's see, Robert, do you want to give an update on the status of the bot and how things are going there?
Sure. So my work this week has been focused on getting the bot enabled, and it was interesting because initially we had started, not that the backend or the market API is in the critical path, but initially we started with a set of Amazon tools to deploy to serverless, and lo and behold, it was a little bit easier, actually a lot easier. And I think for anybody that wants to continue to work on the project moving forward when we have a need, the serverless.com set of tools is significantly easier. So my time is in importing some of the existing functionality over, but what I learned in all that is it's just basically adding it's adding functionality into Market.js. And so it's a back and forth between putting some new API calls in Market.js and then just simply putting a wrapper around it to do the serverless on the AWS side. So it's been a great learning experience for me just because it's working with a lot of moving parts, and it's helping me come to speed a little bit more. So getting at the point where I think today I should start to make some pretty good progress in the way of creating and signing orders and sending those back. One of the things I do want to look at, Phil, is that since you've got the, and maybe it's overkill, but since you have the deploy APIs that are in Market.js, I was thinking just to use those to deploy a contract or deploy contracts. We don't have to do it, but I would just, it's not the top of my list. Obviously getting the order signed, created and signed and sent back is the priority, and getting collateralized. But again, that could be a manual step as well. So there's a lot of functionality there that we can work with the bot, although I'm focused on getting the basic calls done. So I'm hoping by the end of the week I'll have good progress on that and something back to you guys.
Just to clarify there, what do you mean by having the bot deploy contracts? What would be the benefit of that functionality?
So it was just a thought because you had the functionality in there and like, oh, okay. So we said we would take 4 or 5 contracts, deploy them, and we just simply collateralize those and use those.
Yeah, right.
And so I've just been using the dApp to deploy the contract.
Got it. So you're saying to do it so when you deploy the bot, it does it automatically?
It could do it automatically, right? It's not the top of the list, obviously, because there are other ways to do it, but it was just interesting to see because we have that functionality in there. And I think I think you've tested it and it works.
Yeah, I mean, I've tested it against Truffle. I haven't tested it on Rinkeby, but it does definitely work on Truffle. So I assume it should work on Rinkeby just the same.
And I'm also trying to use Rinkeby as well to do the quote unquote testing for the bot.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, even for if it makes your life easier, we can even deploy contracts and just hard code those addresses into a config file that bot's going to trade for the time being or something like that. So
It's kind of what I'm doing it, get the contracts, but yeah, it's kind of what I'm doing. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you could even if you just hard coded or somehow got the address of the contract registry, and then the indexes of the contracts in that registry will never change. So you don't even have to hard code the addresses themselves. You could just say, hey, 5 contracts or 1679 or the contracts, and those indexes would be static. So that would be a way of doing it also.
And putting those contracts in the registry, because initially when I worked on that functionality some time ago, the owner address. So at this point, we're saying it doesn't matter really what addresses that we're using.
I mean, it will. It doesn't for now, though. Okay. I mean, ideally, I think for the beta, we would have, maybe like I said, 4 or 5 contracts. We could do an S&P 500 contract. We could do like a cross-chain stablecoin versus BTC. We could do like a Ethereum versus Zcash, and then maybe one more that's like a stablecoin versus oil or something like that, or Apple stock. And that would be kind of cool, like just a kind of diverse set of contracts that are tradable. And we can even push the expiration super far, so they would essentially never expire in the life of the beta, just so so they're always kind of tradable.
Okay.
That'd be fine for the first iteration, but again, I think for now it's pretty fluid. The functionality is more important than the actual implementation.
Yeah, I think for me, some of the because it's really clear, the market, as I get into some functionality I need, it's like, oh, put it in Market.js because that's where it really belongs. There's no point doing something different inside of the bot and then trying to somehow later on move it over. So it's been that. And I think we're finally at a point with Market.js where I'm feeling there's some we've gelled, if you will, around a bit of a structure and how things are working. So that's been a lot more comfortable than it was earlier in the week.
Cool. Sounds great.
So that's my update.
Swart, do you want to give an update on how things are going with the integration in the dApp?
Yeah, sure. So I have been focusing on integrating like the create order, trade order functionality. So create order and signing the order pieces are completely done. Like they're working totally end to end. So I'm facing some issues with respect to trade orders. So like basically like before trading an order, both the maker and taker should have some collateral tokens deposited into their accounts. So that's where I'm facing issues with respect to the transactions getting processed. So I'm not sure what's the exact reason for them getting reverted. So I need some help from you or like Robert to debug with that. So yeah, that's where things are at with respect to the integration.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can definitely help with that. I mean, debugging the revert calls in Solidity is a huge pain.
Yeah, I tried to follow the test case in the market.js like completely whatever is there. So still I'm kind of getting the same error and couldn't figure out exact reason for that. So
so we have some error codes in in that trade order function. I'm debating if I should change some of those require statements to emit those error codes. So at least we would not get a reverted transaction. We would just get an actual error. The only downside to that is probably some gas that gets consumed. But for like right now in the development purposes, it may help our lives. So we can also kind of talk about that as an option to make debugging slightly easier.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can definitely help you with that today. Let's try to circle back together and see if we can address it.
Sure. Yeah. So apart from the integrations, I've also like kind of getting few PRs rolling out and like reviewing them. So that's where things are at.
Great. Okay. So there's a note in here on some questions about the Gitcoin kind of managed bounties. I think probably that was from Anderson, who's not here, but we can talk about it anyways. So they're going to start helping us take some tasks and basically taking larger kind of milestones, and they'll take those on, decompose them into issues, so scope the work out essentially, and then create bounties for them, and use essentially a curated list of developers on their platform to get the work done. So I think that's going to start as soon as possible for some of the website stuff around the blog and the newsletter and some of the CMS stuff that really is easier for them to tackle. And then there's a possibility of having them also build the piece that we need right now is for people to be able to come to the dApp, essentially sign up for beta, like register a Rinkeby address, and then have like a faucet to give that Rinkeby address tokens, the collateral tokens, right? So like the fake USD tokens or fake wrapped Ether, so they can actually start trading the contracts. So all that functionality, I think we could probably push on to them to start working on, I think almost immediately. You guys have any thoughts on that?
I think it's contained enough where, again, if something went sideways for whatever reason, I think it wouldn't hurt anything else that we're working on, and it could also be a really good test in a variety of areas simply because there's a little bit of domain knowledge that's required there. So, and as we know, there are definitely people on Gitcoin that have that knowledge. So, yeah, it could be an interesting project for them.
Cool. Aswar, do you have any thoughts in relation to the dApp and that process of having people sign up, and then also like the faucet idea of them getting tokens to trade with?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we can definitely scope it out to Gitcoin, but the only concern is with respect to like before them like creating tasks or starting work on them, like probably we should give them the technical implementation side of things so that it'll be easier for us and also for them to have clear idea like how things like are architected within the market protocol. And also in terms of security purposes, we can also kind of help them properly plan things accordingly so that there are no issues.
Yes, I think the plan there would be to have the project managers that are going to work with us join our Discord, and then they would probably create issues and ask us to review them. So that would be an opportunity for us to make sure and add any comments about architecture. And then, they would be responsible for sourcing the developers and probably also the initial PR reviews. We might be the ones that are responsible for the final merge, but they would at least do the initial interactions with code reviews to make sure that the basic requirements are met. It's a work in progress because this is the first time they've done it also. So we can kind of see how it goes, but I'll definitely get them in our Discord so we can kind of create some interaction there.
Sure, that definitely sounds like a great plan.
Cool. That's really all I have to talk about. Is there stuff that you guys want to bring up? Sounds like we've kind of reached consensus on the pre-commit hooks and how that's going to work for now. So we can talk about that, but I think we're going to leave the linting in and then make sure that we're creating PRs for features, just following the branching model in Gitflow and kind of moving that forward.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cool.
Yeah, so like I think one important thing is with respect to the documentation of market.js, so yesterday was one thing that I found out, we always need to set the from address for the Web3 transactions. So like maybe we should kind of focus on these kind of things to be well documented so that like it will be easier for the third party integrations to kind of uh, like see what are the required parameters before integrating and calling a method or something.
Just want to make sure I understand. So you're talking about in market.js, there's the transaction parameters that we're passing in. You're saying you have to be explicit in defining the from address in those?
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, and also I don't think we have actually checked out like the generated docs, how they are, and are they even kind of helpful, or do we have to do something to get them like in the proper shape so that they'll be helpful for the other parties to kind of have a reference basically.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the index. I know that they're getting generated, but I haven't really checked that much time with it yet.
As is that something where if we put it into, we would have to play with it, but just we would put it into the doc block for that particular function, because the actual API docs that are being generated are quite good. I'm surprised, they're reading function signatures and the doc block and such. So it's actually quite complete. Is that where that would belong, or would it go into something else, or like a README off of the into a directory or off of the main repo? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking maybe those docs should be part of like the actual document protocol.io, where we kind of have so for the Solidity part, we already have the pieces like explaining what each kind of method does. So it should be in a similar way. The market.js should have a similar section. I'm not really sure how that will exactly fit inside the parent repo of the docs.marketprotocol.io, but that should definitely be the place where they should kind of be integrated with it.
Okay, that makes sense. I got you now.
We could add that to the list of things for Gitcoin to tackle, that the integration of those documents from that repo into the docs.marketprotocol.io. I mean, it should be doable. So we could also ask them just to work on that piece.
Yeah, because the build generates all the docs, and so it's just a matter of just the mechanics of what does that look like, and does the styling change a little bit, right? Probably does, right, to mimic more of our corporate colors and such.
Corporate colors.
Yeah, I know. I said that. I know. I know. Oh boy, that was bad.
Yeah, that all sounds good, but can't we also, for the from parameter, can't we just so there's that I transaction params interface. Can't we just, since we're using TypeScript, can't we just instead of it being an interface, can't we just define a type that requires it, so you can't the types won't build if it doesn't work, since we're using strongly typed language anyways?
No, it's not about the type, Phil. It's like the JavaScript library which is being included in the third party's application. So we can check whether that param is coming and throw an error. Basically, the assert function which is there, that can be done, but we cannot kind of avoid completely.
Got it.
So there should be some checks before even processing the transaction or something like that. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Similarly, we have for the order and signed order, right? We kind of check all the required keys are coming in along the schema validation which we do. So in the same pattern, we can also have the ITX param schema validation and throw the appropriate error in case they don't exist, they're not being passed on appropriately with a proper error message. So that should be doable. That's not a problem. I was just confirming whether third parties will actually do that, or the whole problem was that the Web3 we kind of create over there, it doesn't have a default account defined. I mean, and also we won't be sure which account to be defaulted. I mean, we can definitely go ahead and get the Coinbase account or accounts array first element and kind of default it, but I'm not sure if that's the suggested way or not.
Yeah, that all makes sense.
Yeah, so that's the reason we want to kind of make the from param required. Probably gas too. I'm not sure like if that is required or not.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we hop off?
Nothing from my side. Like,
I think I'm good.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate everyone joining us this morning. And Tommy, thanks for listening in. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
yeah.